Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Platform and Possibilities. I'm your host, Corinne J. Fitz-Benjamin, and I'm always delighted for the opportunity to share with you with a view to inform, inspire, and empower. Today, I have the opportunity of sitting to chit-chat with Miss Nyoka Gumbs-Henry, actually, now.
Yes,
Congratulations again, Nyoka.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Don't forget to like and subscribe or share this podcast with your friends because it's going to be useful information that I know you will appreciate. So, Nyoka Gums, thank you so much again for joining me on this platform. I am excited because you are such a multi-talented individual who is not just a newly minted author, but also an architect. In fact, your bio states that you hail from St. Kitts and Nevis. We share something in common.
Absolutely.
And at 16, you ventured to New York to pursue your passion for architecture, setting the stage for your remarkable journey as a determined construction project manager. So we'll chit chat a little bit about that. The book is entitled The Day After the Unemployment Runs Out. I'm just tired with that, headline of right away. Must be a struggle for people. And your book says it's a survival guide for those facing financial hardship and the culmination of your journey, a testament to your resourcefulness. Thank you so much again, Nyoka, for joining me. We have so much to talk about in this little book, which really provides so much resource for individuals who are challenged after unemployment. But we have to go back to St. Kitts, that
Yes.
time. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about you growing up in St. Kitts and exactly St. Kitts Nevis, and exactly where did you grow?
Yes. I am the proud daughter of Walford and Georgina Gums, and I treasure the rich, diverse background that they gave me. I was raised mostly in the daytime in McKnight, Upper Tibbo Avenue. We slept in Bird Rock, Suncrest. Holidays I spent in Molyneux, Mansion, Tabernacle with my father's family. And also I would go to Deep Bay and Sadler's with my mom's family. So I saw a bit of all the different parts in St. Kitts. And so it made me know how to be adaptable and empathetic and flexible and being able to move in different circles. So I
Right.
really treasure that.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like fun.
Yes,
You were a tourist in your own right.
yes.
So
And
it's
I also even spent time in Nevis with relatives at times as well
okay.
in the summers.
Any preference? Any particular village that you loved or community that stands out as being,
I think
creating
I
memory?
think it's a toss up between Molyneux and Deep Bay. A lot of my fondest memories came
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Interesting. But you were educated in Bastille.
Yes. I went to Epworth School, junior high, senior high. And then from there, I finished senior high at 15, fifth form, and then came straight to the US to study architecture.
Architecture. Why architecture though? What was that thing that inspired you to?
I think my older brother, he was a draftsman, so I was around it. And then at 14, a few friends and I won a French competition in St. Kitts, and we had a prize trip to Paris. So I was at 14 at that time. And so there I kind of fell in love with buildings in a different way.
Wow.
The
Yeah.
cathedrals, the Louvre, the boulevards and things like that. So I really kind of came to see buildings more than just like places of shelter, like houses and schools, but now seeing that they had a personality and they could evoke emotion. And so I just wanted to be a part of that and combining that with my older brother's mentorship and wanting to be like him. I think that pushed me into studying design architecture.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So you're in New York now, and at this point, after leaving high school and recognizing that there's some passion for the arts or for architecture, you're in you're in New York. You go to school.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that experience. You're still certain that you want to stay in this particular realm of architecture and to become an architect?
Yeah, I never wavered from that. I had periods where I would take breaks and do some art, drawing, sculpting, watercolor, painting, a little bit of photography. And so I kind of had the ability to explore like sister fields that would just kind of enhance my capabilities as an architect.
Mhm.
I felt like architecture was rich because it also brought together a little bit of sociology, a little bit of psychology. Like once you focus on the end user, then it becomes more than just art. You are influencing movement. You can influence the safety of a woman, for instance, in how you design a building, and like dead ends and blind corners you can make a person feel safe. So I really love the psychology of it, like the way how a building could affect a person and how a person can affect a building. So that was like some of the angles of interest for me,
Mhm.
as a designer.
As a
Yeah.
designer. And so would you say that you've had multiple opportunities to work with different companies or various projects? How has your journey been in terms of employment?
Well, when I left school, because I was so young, I'm a
Mm.
female in a male-dominated field. I'm an immigrant, so a lot of minority elements, spaces where I needed to kind of like assert myself. And so my youth also became a factor. In studying architecture, there was a time when the architect was what they call the master builder. He was also a tradesman, like a carpenter. He might
Mhm.
build furniture. He was also the engineer. But the profession at that point when I was in school had become a little bit much more fragmented, where there was this perception that architects are just like, you're just fashion designers on paper.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
now you have a mechanical engineer, a structural engineer, a civil engineer, an electrical engineer.
Whole cast.
And so it was this perception that we just knew how to do it on paper and we depended on engineers to build. And so to get some credibility, I decided to go into construction to become a better architect. So the idea was that I was going to learn how things are built, maybe learn some hands-on skills, and now have some more credibility as an architect. But then I went into construction and then ended up staying there. And now it's 25 plus years later, and I'm still like in construction as a construction manager. So I never returned to design. So that's what I've been doing. At this stage, I'm managing large scale construction projects in New York City. My current project is a $150 million project for the NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority. So
Right.
it's a pretty historic project right now in Staten Island. And so it's been the highlight so far of everything that I've done. So I'm looking forward to seeing this project developed.
That's amazing. That's quite a feat. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's quite a challenge, and by the same token, I'm sure your expectations are to be, the rewards of your input or your being part of this project. Salute.
Yeah. And I think the root of it is helping people. I was not interested in projects, for the wealthy or like building wealthy homes and things like that. So I went into the public sector where I could really impact underserved communities. And so that's where that advocate part of me
Yeah,
comes.
you think I was about to ask if you think that's a reflection of your upbringing. It sounds like it is.
Yes. Yeah, my father was a trade unionist.
Yeah,
So that piece has always been in there in trying to serve, you know.
service, stewardship,
Yeah,
servant leadership.
exactly.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Mhm.
So, so many years in project management slash um, um, doing the work in architecture, being around engineers. Um, but was the thing that, or how did you crack the code to write this book? What was it that got you there? Oh,
Yeah.
here.
Well, the recession. of 2009
Mm.
to 2014, employment for me had been impacted. Um, had never been in such a prolonged period of unemployment. I was out of my main profession for about 5 years. Probably for the first 2 to 2.5 years, I went through my savings. So I was able to go off savings for a couple years. Um, my landlord didn't even know that I was unemployed because I was still, paying rent on
Holding
time.
your head above water, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you recall that during that time, so millions had been unemployed. And so Congress would keep extending the unemployment. And
Yes.
there would be another vote, let's give it another 6 months. And so that's where some of the titling came in the day after the unemployment runs out, because then I started to resort to the creativity and resilience and the sense of community that I got growing up in St. Kitts and tap into that to survive. And I started thinking, well, what for the person who didn't have the same background as me? Um, and so I started jotting down little notes. I didn't think of myself in terms of an author at that point. I just knew I would like to help people when I'm through it, through my
It's
experience. I want to be able to reach back and help people who would go through the same thing and just have like a very down to earth practical guide and financial advice from the standpoint where it's not highfalutin. It's not when somebody still has a 401k or resources to tap, but what happens when it comes to zero? So that's why I focus on that day when the unemployment goes to zero, when there's like no more vote, it runs out, time's up,
what do you
no
do?
savings, you're facing eviction potentially, as I had been at times, and facing bankruptcy. Like, is that an option for me? Or car repossession and things like that. What happens that at that moment? What then? What is the advice you give to somebody then? You don't have generational wealth to deal with. You've exhausted whatever assistance my parents and my siblings had given me converting from EC to US. That can't carry you but so
So
far.
far. Hmm.
So what then? What do you do when you want to keep your morals intact and you want to stay on the legal side and you want to do it with some level of dignity? And so, like I said, it's easy to have gone the immoral way and guaranteed those opportunities will come, right? It's easy to go the illegal route to try to dig out of the hardship. But what for the person who wants to stay clean and have some integrity? Um, that's who I wanted to write for. And so, yeah, so I decided to like I said, initially it wasn't about a book. I didn't have the courage and I didn't think of myself as an author. I guess in your mind, you're thinking an author is like somebody who has more literary prowess or, the shapes.
Background. Right.
Right. So I didn't think of it that way. I initially had an idea of just more like a talk show with me and a few other people who are unemployed, and
Mhm.
we just sit around the table. And these were the subjects that I came up with because I wanted to treat the subject of unemployment and financial hardship from a holistic angle, where, as you would see, some of the chapters, it deals with, you know, grounding yourself spiritually, keeping active, you know, um, getting control of your emotions. Um, then there's the practical side, the do-it-yourself recipes,
Yeah.
uh, the $5 recipes. So, and then also how to tap into government resources, but then also how do you present yourself from a resume and a networking standpoint. So I wanted to treat the whole being, the whole person in this situation. So eventually, like I said, 2014 is where I got back into my main profession. I reinvented myself. I cleaned houses. I did whatever I had to do to get
Wow.
through 5 years.
Right.
But then I was back into my main profession. And like I said, I had this idea of it being a few women talking, but then I wasn't getting enough traction
Mhm.
from the other people that I had shared the idea with. And I realized maybe I was being a little bit unfair because not everybody's comfortable talking about hardship while they're still in it, right?
That's what I was just about to ask.
Yeah.
I mean, part of what you recommend is, like you said, grounding yourself, finding the connections, people who could be empathetic to you. But especially because we come from a small community, I don't want to say we think small. That's not it at
Mhm.
all. But it's having the confidence to say, Nayoka, here's what's happening. Give
Yep.
me a hand. You
Yep.
know, how did that, I mean, you said you had the support of family, right?
Mhm.
But you have friends as well, and some who, you're trying to be a resourceful person. I'm sure you are that. It's clear that you're resourceful. How
Mhm.
did you use that the element of connections or your ability to network
Mhm.
drive the needle on what you needed to do, which is to get back into the job force? What would you say?
Right. So one of the things I suggested is sometimes even in the hardship, although it's hard, don't just focus on yourself. You can focus on giving back too. And sometimes that feeds your optimism, right? Helping other look for ways that you can contribute if you have the time. And then just maybe in that volunteerism, you can find resources in your neighborhood that most times you're running to the train, right? And then you to the subway, and then you're heading to work, and then you're heading home, and you're passing by things and resources in your neighborhood or people that you didn't have the time to stop to notice. And so even that element of what I'm saying in terms of keeping active, maybe just going for a walk, all of a sudden, suddenly you realize, oh my gosh, like there's a construction office a couple blocks from me. Or like in my case, just being able to slow down and just get out of my head. There was a blind person on my block that I was able to like walk somewhere because I had the time. And then telling him about my situation, he pointed me to resources. So that's one
Right,
thing definitely that I would say. I did talk a lot about affirmations in there
right.
because
Mhm.
sometimes your family, they may not be able to help you financially, and friends, and sometimes they might be well intentioned, but certain things they may say may still bring you down,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Um, and so that self work, the affirmations can address that piece and just really reminding yourself that it's your circumstances, right? It's not a failure on your standpoint, on your part, right?
mhm,
Especially if you're dealing with a nationwide and worldwide recession. It's
yes.
circumstances, it's temporary. So a lot of work on the mental health side.
Mhm.
My family, like I said, and my friends, they did what they could, but those would be spurts of time, not prolonged.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, so it's a lot of just ingenuity and
Mhm.
creativity that came into play, and
Right.
being humble as well, and open to things that you didn't think you would do, you
Yeah.
know.
And you talked about it, like you had to eventually, lead yourself into shifting from what your familiar
Yeah.
role was, or just things being a certain way. You realize you had to shift. So
Yeah.
it's something for most people who
Hmm.
wouldn't really be comfortable or feel comfortable, pivoting.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you hear these fancy words and you hear these expressions, not
Mhm.
realizing that, yes, this is how it looks. And you
Yes.
are a testimony to how that worked or how that looked. And
Yeah.
the other side was your resilience and a new page, a new chapter. And that's the lesson that I think you teach here in this book.
Hmm.
It's a short read, it's very insightful. I'm still not sure about the $5 recipes with
Right.
inflation, but so many enticing meals. I am familiar with a lot of them, especially the meatless ones. And it's just creative what you've done to really showcase your skill, your ingenuity, and your vision. I really
Right.
do appreciate that. And I'm sure your readers are going to appreciate this too. It's a quick read, like I said.
Yeah. Thank you. The recipes at the time when things started to be written down in the book, it's going to places like Aldi, Dollar General, Dollar Tree. It's like basically saying, forget the name brands that you used to. And if you strip it down to the store brands, just a few ingredients as well, not, all the recipes is just a few ingredients. And some of them you might already have in your cupboard, right? And so it's just basically how to be creative and have nourishing meals that don't break the bank. I don't know what they would scale to at this point with inflation, but it's just the principle of simplicity.
Right.
We come from a place where we know what to do with flour and water. There's so many things that I can naturally do. Boiled dumpling, Johnny cake, right? You can, use the flour to thicken up certain porridges, right?
Or goat stew.
Exactly. So there's just a lot. The same thing, like I said, even with cornmeal, we know we could do ton cornmeal. You could make like a cornmeal pancake. You know what I mean? You can make a corn muffin. There's just so much creativity in where we come from, and that just naturally came to me. I mean, from the sink, it's that we know what to do with some Vienna sausage. We know some corned beef. Like simple things, and we can make a meal.
Yes, yes.
And so those were the things that I resorted to during that period. And so I just wanted to share as much as possible.
Right. Well said. Well said. And so what would you say would be key takeaways that you want people to get from reading this book the day after the unemployment runs out?
Key takeaways, you're not alone. Circumstances, like would you say circumstances make me what I am? It's temporary. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's a big key during that time. Seek help. Don't be ashamed to have conversation. For the people who might not be experiencing hardship at that moment, be empathetic and create that safe space going through it. And those are the main things. Resilience is not something you're born with, but you can definitely build it. And community is
Yes. Building resilience comes with the support of community or from the support of community and family. And of course, the mental strength from the experience. So kudos to you, Nyoka, for presenting us with this beautiful, action plan. I think it's a beautiful action plan for personal growth, for community, embracing community, and just to showcase your vision. We really appreciate it. The other side of Nyoka, a lot of people don't know. I always ask people, what's a fun fact many people wouldn't know about you that it's not in the book and that we may not know because we don't know that part of Nyoka? What's a fun fact about you that you care to share?
In thinking about this, because I wear many hats, I have a company called Dope Arts, which is an umbrella for like art and storytelling, my art and storytelling. And so I discovered an amazing moment in Central Park some years ago. And I've decided it was a tree that basically let out its sap. And it basically did it in the shape of male-female intimacy. And so I am working on a jigsaw puzzle for couples using this discovery and this tree as a basis. The jigsaw is called Pieces of Us, and it's supposed to be a connection builder for couples. And so that's probably going to be my next project.
That's exciting.
So that's a quirky fact.
Sap is a good in the park. Look, you never know. People get creativity from all, you get inspired from various ways. And this is clearly one of your inspirations. That's amazing. That's a wonderful representation of who you are and your innovative thinking. So more power to you, Nyoka. And thank you so much for joining us today to have this exchange, to tell us about your book. Don't forget to go out and get the book, listeners, the day after the unemployment runs out, a survival guide for those facing financial hardships. And
it can be found on Amazon in hardcover and paperback, and also in ebook format, Kindle format on Amazon.
Nyoka Gumbs, correct?
Yes.
Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. Good luck on this venture and good luck on what's to come. Don't be a stranger. Come back and share again. Nice
Absolutely.
having you. Have a
Bye-bye.
great one. Thank you so much for joining us on Platform and Possibilities. We'll see you next time. Have a great one. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.